everyone. Have you ever wondered how a mysterious wife in the Bible could have such a significant impact on one of Israel's greatest leaders? This is the story of Zipporah, Moses' first wife. Why is she so rarely mentioned in the Bible, despite playing such an important role? Imagine this: a woman from the Midianite people, not part of the Israelite community, was able to save Moses' life in a life-threatening situation. Have you ever wondered why Moses, the leader of Israel, came under God's anger, and why his wife Zipporah had to intervene to save him from death? Is this story really as simple as we might think? In today's video, we will delve into the mysterious story of Zipporah. We will explore her cultural background, the crucial role she played in Moses' mission, and the challenges she faced as the wife of one of the most significant figures in biblical history. The controversial moments and mysteries surrounding her will make you rethink what you think you know about the Bible. If you're ready to explore the hidden depth of Zipporah's story, don't go away. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your friends so we can discover these fascinating insights together. And don't forget to leave your questions or thoughts in the comments section. We always welcome your feedback and queries. Let's grow together in wisdom and understanding. Zipporah first appears in the Bible in the book of Exodus, at a pivotal time in Moses' life. After fleeing Egypt to escape Pharaoh's wrath, Moses arrived in Midian, where he met the 7 daughters of Jethro, also known as Reuel, a priest of Midian, a people descended from Abraham through his second wife, Keturah, Genesis 25 verse 1 to 2. This was a nomadic people living in the region of modern-day Arabia. The encounter between Zipporah and Moses took place in a dramatic scene at a well, a location often associated with significant encounters in the Bible, such as Isaac's meeting with his wife Rebekah, Genesis 24:11-20, or Jacob's meeting with his wife Rachel, Genesis 29:9-10. Wells in the ancient Near East were vital for gathering water, but they were also social gathering spots. In Exodus 2:16-21, it is recorded, "Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water, and filled the troughs to water their father's flock. Then the shepherds came and drove them away, but Moses stood up and helped them, and watered their flock." Moses agreed to stay with Jethro, and he married Jethro's daughter Zipporah. In this passage, we see Moses, though a stranger in a foreign land, immediately stepping into the role of protector and provider. The shepherds who tried to drive away Jethro's daughters represent a common challenge women of that time faced, especially in a patriarchal society where men dominated public spaces. Moses' courageous act of defending the women and helping them complete their task shows his inherent sense of justice and foreshadows his future role as the deliverer of Israel. This encounter also marks the beginning of the relationship between Moses and Zipporah, which began not with a grand introduction, but with a simple, heroic act of kindness. When the daughters returned home earlier than usual, their father Jethro was surprised and asked why they had returned so quickly. They explained that an Egyptian man, Moses, had rescued them from the shepherds and even watered their flock. This led Jethro to invite Moses into their home and welcome him warmly. This situation reflects the culture of the Middle Eastern nations, where inviting and welcoming strangers is a cherished tradition. This gesture also symbolizes the customs of the time, when marriages were often arranged, and daughters were given in marriage as a sign of alliance and gratitude. Zipporah, which means little bird in Hebrew, became the wife of Moses. This marriage was not just a relationship between a husband and wife, but, from another perspective, it marked Moses' integration into the Midianite society. If this story has inspired you and helped you feel closer to God, please hit like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos, where we will continue to explore more profound and grace-filled Bible stories from the Lord. By marrying Zipporah, Moses became part of Jethro's family, gaining protection, social status, and a new beginning after fleeing Egypt. Exodus 3:1 says, "Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God." This passage shows that Moses not only married Zipporah, but also took on responsibilities within her family, tending Jethro's flock, strengthening his relationship with Midianite society, and laying the foundation for his later return to Egypt as the chosen deliverer of God's people. Zipporah's legacy is intertwined with the ancient history of the Midianite people, a tribe descended from Abraham through his second wife, Keturah. The connection to Abraham places the Midianites within the family of larger nations, those born from the patriarchs. However, they maintained a distinct identity separate from the Israelites. Genesis 25:1-2 records, Abraham took another wife, whose name was Keturah. She bore him Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. This passage shows that Midian, the forefather of the Midianites, was one of the 6 children born to Abraham and Keturah. The descendants of these children, including Midian, formed separate tribes, each developing its own culture and beliefs. Although the Midianites were related by blood to the Israelites, they were regarded as outsiders in the broader biblical narrative. They were a nomadic tribe, famous for their pastoral lifestyle and movement through the barren lands of the Arabian Peninsula. This nomadic way of life influenced their cultural and religious practices. As the daughter of Jethro, a priest of Midian, Zipporah would have certainly been well educated in her people's religious traditions. In Exodus 18 verse 1 it is written, Jethro, the priest of Midian and the father-in-law of Moses, heard of all that God had done for Moses and for Israel, and how the Lord had brought Israel out of Egypt. Jethro's priesthood indicates that the Midianites had an organized system of worship, which likely included rituals and sacrifices. Though their practices differed from those of the Israelites, Jethro is described in the Bible as a wise man who feared God. This suggests that the Midianites also honored the Most High, even though their understanding and worship of him may have differed from that of the Israelite. Zipporah's Midianite heritage and her personal growth shaped her spiritual perspective and understanding. The Midianites, while still acknowledging the God of Abraham, may have incorporated other elements into their worship, a common practice in many ancient Near Eastern cultures. This foundation set them apart from the Israelites, who were bound by the covenant God established with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and later by the laws Moses received from God. The marriage between Moses and Zipporah would require them to face cultural and religious differences. Moses, who was raised as an Egyptian prince and later called by God to lead the Israelites, certainly had a clear understanding of God's covenant with Israel. Meanwhile, Zipporah brought with her the cultural influences of the Midianites into this marriage, creating a combination that could both complement and challenge them. Exodus 18:12 says, Then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought a burnt offering and other sacrifices to God, and Aaron came with all the elders of Israel to eat bread with Moses' father-in-law before God. This passage describes a special moment in the Bible, marking a cultural and spiritual exchange of great significance. Jethro, a priest of Midian, offered sacrifices to God, and the participation of Aaron and the elders of Israel in this communal meal showed a moment of unity and mutual respect between two different cultures. Despite their religious and cultural differences, this event shows that cultures can harmonize and partake in religious rituals when they share a common reverence for God. Aaron and the elders of Israel participating in the ceremony with Jethro wasn't simply an intersection of religions, but a symbol of unity between communities, whether Israelite or Midianite. This moment also reflects the profound influence of Zipporah's family on Moses and Israel. As they participated in religious ceremonies together, it emphasized Zipporah's role and also the cultural integration that she and her family brought to Moses and the Israelite community. This was a powerful symbol of unity and mutual respect, transcending differences to move forward in the mission that God had entrusted. However, the differences between the Midianite and Israelite practices also created potential for conflict. For example, the Israelites worshipped only God, Yahweh, while the Midianites may have practiced a form of polytheism, incorporating multiple gods and various customs. This difference required Moses and Zipporah to find ways to balance their household, especially as Moses was being trained by God to lead Israel according to his commandments. In Numbers 25 of 1-3, it is written, "While Israel was staying in Shittim, the men began to indulge in sexual immorality with the Moabite women, who invited them to the sacrifices to their gods. The people ate the sacrificial meal and bowed down to these gods. So Israel yoked themselves to Baal of Peor, and the Lord's anger burned against them." This passage speaks about the Moabites, but it reflects a deeper, more common issue in the Israelite community: the negative influence of relationships with foreign women, particularly when such relationships led them into idolatry and behaviors contrary to the covenant God had established. Though the Bible does not indicate that Zipporah, Moses' wife, led him into idolatry, this story serves as a reminder of the cultural and religious tensions that could arise in any marriage between an Israelite and a foreign woman. The union of Moses and Zipporah, although not leading to a breach of the covenant or idolatry, remains a classic example of cultural and religious integration that could pose challenges in Israelite society. While Moses was the chosen leader to bring the Israelites out of Egypt and uphold God's covenant, Zipporah, being a Midianite, came from a different cultural and religious background. This raises a major issue regarding how to maintain religious purity in marriages between different nations, where differing cultural and religious elements could lead to conflict. The story of Zipporah, even though not directly related to idolatry, raises questions about the challenges Moses and his family may have faced in maintaining steadfast faith amidst religious differences. This highlights the uniqueness of Zipporah's story, as she was able to maintain her place in Moses' life without disrupting his mission or covenant with God. One of the most mysterious and controversial moments related to Zipporah occurs in the book of Exodus 4, where she plays a crucial role in a situation that could threaten Moses' life. This brief but dramatic story has puzzled scholars and theologians for centuries due to its enigmatic nature and the profound theological consequences it carries. In Exodus 4:24-26, it is written, "At a lodging place on the way, the Lord met Moses and was about to kill him. But Zipporah took a flint knife, cut off her son's foreskin, and touched Moses' feet with it, saying, 'Surely you are a bridegroom of blood to me.'" This passage describes a confusing situation where God, after commissioning Moses to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, suddenly wants to kill him. The reason for God's anger is not explicitly stated in the text, but many believe it was because Moses had not circumcised his son, a key sign of the covenant between God and his people. Genesis 17, verse 10-14. Genesis 17:10-11 says, "This is my covenant with you and your descendants, the covenant you are to keep. Every male among you shall be circumcised. You are to undergo circumcision, and it will be the sign of the covenant between me and you." Circumcision is a significant sign of identity for the Israelites and their covenant relationship with God, beginning with Abraham. Moses' failure to perform this rite for his son could be seen as neglecting an essential part of the faith and the covenant relationship that God established with the descendants of Abraham. This could be considered a serious violation, especially since Moses was the leader chosen by God to deliver his people. In the moment of God's anger, it was Zipporah who acted decisively. She took a flint knife, a tool often associated with purity and ritual in ancient cultures, and performed the circumcision herself. Her actions showed that she was fully aware of the covenant's requirements and understood the gravity of the situation, perhaps even more clearly than Moses at that moment. If you feel grateful and enlightened by this message, leave an amen in the comments to share with us the faith, love, and grace of God. Let's spread the spiritual light together and continue delivering profound messages that bring us closer to God and help us grow in faith. Zipporah's statement, "Surely you are a bridegroom of blood to me," has sparked much debate and has been interpreted in various ways by scholars. Although brief, this statement contains a complex mix of emotions, from anger to relief, and a profound acknowledgement of the covenant God established. Some scholars suggest that this statement reflects Zipporah's inner tension, as she faced an extremely serious and painful situation where she had to make a decisive action regarding God's covenant with Israel. The phrase, bridegroom of blood, could be understood as an acknowledgement that the act of circumcision, while a ritual outwardly, was also a sign of deep commitment and participation in the covenant between God and his people. In the culture of that time, the shedding of blood during circumcision symbolized a sacred bond, marking a significant turning point in the relationship between an individual and God. Therefore, Zipporah's statement may reflect her awareness of the seriousness and pain of the act, while also expressing the intimate connection between her son and husband with God's people, a connection now also physical, as a spiritual commitment. This also shows Zipporah's respect and deep understanding of the covenant, even though she was not an Israelite and had to face cultural and religious challenges in marrying Moses. Her statement could be seen as a manifestation of spiritual struggle, as she recognized her important role in maintaining and fulfilling the covenant that God had established, even though it was a painful and challenging act. In Joshua 5:2-3, it is written, "At that time the Lord said to Joshua, 'Make flint knives and circumcise the Israelites again.' So Joshua made flint knives and circumcised the Israelites at Gibeath Haraloth." The reference to Joshua using flint knives to perform circumcision highlights the significance of this ritual and its connection to purification under the covenant. Zipporah's act with the flint knife also ties into the broader biblical theme of circumcision as a sign of dedication and obedience to God. The meaning behind Zipporah's intervention also raises questions about the dynamics in her marriage to Moses. As a Midianite, Zipporah was not born into the covenant community of Israel, but her actions demonstrate a deep understanding of the covenant's requirements. This event highlights the tension between their cultural backgrounds and emphasizes the importance of the covenant in their relationship. It also suggests that Zipporah might have had a deeper spiritual understanding, which Moses, focused on his mission, may have overlooked. In Deuteronomy 10:16, it is written, "Circumcise your hearts, therefore, and do not be stiff-necked any longer." This verse, although referring to circumcision of the heart in a figurative sense, evokes a profound theme related to the physical act of circumcision, a sign of commitment and loyalty to God. Zipporah's strong and decisive action in performing circumcision on her son was not just a simple ritual, but a profound symbol of her inner understanding of the covenant that God had made with his people. Zipporah's act can be seen as a true and strong spiritual commitment to God, a commitment that went beyond external rituals to an adherence to the deeper sacred requirements that God had set forth. She performed a ritual which symbolized a profound awareness of living according to God's covenant, an understanding that went beyond mere religious formalities. This act of Zipporah shows that she had a deep and direct connection with God, understanding that the covenant was about following rules, or in other words, it is a spiritual connection, obedience, and loyalty to the Creator. In that moment, Zipporah demonstrated her willingness to engage in a relationship with God, conveyed through outward rituals and deep respect and commitment in her heart. She went beyond the surface to truly live in the covenant, and that act reflected a real spiritual change, an alteration that we, in our own faith lives, must also seek. This circumcision moment is a key moment in Zipporah's story, showcasing her timely and decisive intervention in a critical situation, which highlights her role in Moses' covenant relationship with God. In the story of Moses and Zipporah, her actions not only saved Moses' life, but also affirmed the importance of the covenant between God and his people. Zipporah's actions show that she was a strong character with profound spiritual insight, capable of navigating cultural and religious differences in her marriage to Moses. Though this event was brief, it offers much to reflect on concerning themes such as the covenant, obedience, and the role of women in the larger story of God's people. Now we will explore Zipporah's return to Midian as Moses prepares to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. The Bible briefly but meaningfully mentions Zipporah and her children returning to Midian. This is recorded in Exodus 18, when Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought her and her children back to Moses. Exodus 18:2-3 states, "After Moses had sent his wife Zipporah away, his father-in-law Jethro received her and her 2 sons. One son was named Gershom, for Moses said, 'I have become an alien in a foreign land.' And the other son was named Eleazar, for he said, 'The God of my father was my help and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh.'" This passage shows that at one point during the preparations for the Exodus, Moses had sent Zipporah and her 2 sons, Gershom and Eleazar, back to her father's house in Midian. The reason for this decision is not explicitly stated in the text, but several possibilities can be considered. Moses sending Zipporah and the children to Midian could be understood as a strategic decision to protect his family. The mission God gave Moses to confront Pharaoh and demand the release of the Israelites was an incredibly dangerous task. As Moses prepared to face one of the most powerful kings in the ancient world, he surely understood that the safety of his family was an important factor that could not be overlooked. Although God had declared that those who sought Moses' life were dead, Exodus 4:19, the danger was not entirely gone. Moses' return to Egypt still posed many risks, especially as he would face Pharaoh's wrath and the plagues God would bring upon Egypt. Therefore, the decision to send Zipporah and the children to Midian was a reasonable step, allowing Moses to focus entirely on the mission God had entrusted him with, without worrying about the safety of his family. In addition to safety, Zipporah's return to Midian also raises the question of the cultural challenges she faced. As a Midianite, Zipporah was not a native member of the Israelite community. When she married Moses, she entered a completely new world with different customs, traditions, and beliefs. Her life among a community with a different culture and faith was certainly not easy. Being the wife of a leader chosen by God to lead the Israelites out of Egypt may have caused Zipporah to feel isolated and estranged. This difference may have led to feelings of discrimination, especially when Miriam and Aaron criticized Moses for marrying a Cushite woman, Numbers 12:1. Therefore, Zipporah's return to Midian may have been a decision to find safety and a sense of belonging that she might not have found within the Israelite community. Returning to her father's house was a way for her to feel protected and comforted while Moses continued the important work God had given him. Moses' decision to send Zipporah and the children to Midian was not merely an act of protecting their safety, but also reflected the tensions within his family. Moses was the leader chosen by God to lead the Israelites out of slavery, bearing the responsibility of guiding a nation in a crucial mission. This responsibility came with many heavy demands, preventing Moses from fully dedicating time to his family. Leading a nation, facing the challenges and dangers from Pharaoh, required Moses to place the mission above all else, including family unity in the short term. In Exodus 4:20, it is written, "So Moses took his wife and sons, put them on a donkey, and returned to Egypt. He took the staff of God in his hand." Although Moses initially decided to bring Zipporah and the children with him on the journey back to Egypt, his later decision to send them back to Midian suggests that the events to come in Egypt, particularly the plagues and the confrontation with Pharaoh, might make it inconvenient and dangerous for his family to accompany him. This decision reflects Moses' sacrifice, as he had to choose between his grand mission and his family. After some time apart, in Exodus 18, we see that Jethro brought Zipporah and the children back to reunite with Moses after the Israelites had successfully left Egypt. This reunion was significant for Moses and his family, marking an important milestone in the grand narrative of Israel's deliverance. Exodus 18:5-7 says, "Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, together with his sons and wife, came to him in the wilderness, where he was camped near the mountain of God. Jethro had sent word to him, 'I, your father-in-law Jethro, am coming to you with your wife and her 2 sons.' So Moses went out to meet his father-in-law, bowed down, and kissed him." This encounter was marked by respect and affection, as Moses personally went out to meet Jethro, bowing down and kissing him as an act of honor. The return of Zipporah and the children marked a restoration of family relationships after a long period of separation. At the same time, this reunion also emphasizes the importance of family and kinship in the larger story of the covenant that God established with Israel. This reconciliation was not merely a personal moment for Moses' family, but also a symbol of restoration and the strong connection between generations in God's redemptive plan. Now we will continue to explore the encounter with Miriam and Aaron, Zipporah's final significant appearance in the Bible. This event occurred in the context of a conflict between Miriam and Aaron, Moses' siblings. This incident, recorded in the book of Numbers, sheds light on tensions within Moses' family and provides insight into broader cultural and ethnic dynamics. Numbers 12:1 says, Miriam and Aaron began to talk against Moses because of his Cushite wife, for he had married a Cushite. This is the only direct reference to this conflict, but it carries significant meaning. The term Cushite typically refers to someone from the region of Cush, which is associated with modern-day Sudan or Ethiopia, indicating African descent. Scholars have debated whether the Cushite wife refers to Zipporah or another woman Moses may have married. If the Cushite wife indeed refers to Zipporah, it suggests her foreign status and possibly even her appearance may have become points of contention within Moses' family. The mention of Moses' wife as a Cushite highlights the cultural and ethnic tension she may have faced within the Israelite community. Zipporah was already an outsider, being a Midianite, and calling her a Cushite may emphasize her foreignness in the eyes of Miriam and Aaron. Deuteronomy 7:3-4 says, Do not intermarry with them. Do not give your daughters to their sons, or take their daughters for your sons, for they will turn your children away from following me to serve other gods, and the Lord's anger will burn against you and quickly destroy you. Although this command was issued later, it reflects the common concern among the Israelites about marrying foreign nations. These marriages were often feared to lead to idol worship and abandoning the covenant with God. Miriam and Aaron's criticism may have stemmed from a deep fear of cultural and religious contamination, which often accompanied interracial marriages in that time. In addition to the cultural and racial tensions, this event may also reflect jealousy and power dynamics within the leadership of Israel. Miriam and Aaron were both prominent figures in the community, with Miriam being a prophetess and Aaron the high priest. Their criticism of Moses could have been due to jealousy over Moses' special relationship with God and his leadership position. Numbers 12:2 says, Has the Lord spoken only through Moses? They asked. Hasn't he also spoken through us? And the Lord heard this. This passage shows that the issue was not just about Moses' marriage, but also about their perception of inequality in God's communication with them. Miriam and Aaron felt overlooked, questioning why Moses had such a direct connection with God. Their criticism of Moses' wife may have been an attempt to undermine his authority, using her foreign identity as an attack point. God's response to this incident was swift and severe. He called Moses, Aaron, and Miriam to the tent of meeting, where he defended Moses and rebuked Miriam and Aaron for speaking against him. Numbers 12:6-8 says, The Lord said, Listen to my words. When there is a prophet among you, I, the Lord, reveal myself to them in visions. I speak to them in dreams. But this is not true of my servant Moses. He is faithful in all my house. With him I speak face to face, clearly and not in riddles. He sees the form of the Lord. Why then were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses? God's defense of Moses highlights the unique relationship he had with Moses, a relationship unlike that with any other prophet or leader. God's anger rose against Miriam and Aaron, but Miriam bore the heavier consequence. Numbers 12:10 records, When the cloud lifted from above the tent, Miriam's skin was leprous. It became as white as snow. Aaron turned toward her and saw that she had a defiling skin disease. Miriam's leprosy was a disease that made her ceremonially and socially unclean. Her being stricken with leprosy and isolated from the community could be seen as a symbolic punishment. It reflected the consequences of her attempt to exclude and belittle Moses' wife simply because of her foreign identity. Ironically, the punishment of leprosy, which turned her skin as white as snow, could be seen as God's rebuke against Miriam's criticism of a woman who may have had dark skin. Miriam's leprosy and Aaron's subsequent plea for her healing reflect a moment of repentance and reconciliation. Moses, with humility and compassion, pleaded with God for his sister. Numbers 12:13-15 says, "So Moses cried out to the Lord, 'Please God, heal her.' The Lord replied to Moses, 'If her father had spit in her face, would she not have been in disgrace for 7 days? Confine her outside the camp for 7 days. After that, she can be brought back.' So Miriam was confined outside the camp for 7 days, and the people did not move on until she was brought back. Miriam's 7-day isolation outside the camp served as a time of purification and reflection. It also highlights the seriousness with which God views the sin of jealousy, racism, and rebellion against his chosen leader. After 7 days, Miriam was restored to the community, but this event was not just a moment of physical healing. It was a powerful lesson about the dangers of letting cultural and racial prejudices influence relationships within the community of God's people. This serves as a reminder that racial discrimination or cultural differences can easily create division and affect unity within the community of believers. Miriam's affliction with leprosy and her subsequent restoration also emphasizes God's severity toward discriminatory actions, while showing that only humility and repentance can restore our relationship with God and with one another. The encounter between Miriam and Aaron also sheds light on the complexities surrounding Zipporah's role, Moses' wife. While in Numbers 12 verse 1, the Cushite wife could directly refer to Zipporah or another woman Moses might have married, this event highlights the cultural and racial tensions Zipporah may have faced as the wife of one of the most important leaders in Israel. Cultural and racial differences may have made it difficult for her to be accepted and integrated into the Israelite community, a people with a completely different cultural and religious foundation. This event also underscores the challenges Moses faced, not only in leading a nation, but also in managing family dynamics, particularly those influenced by issues of race, culture, and jealousy. Moses had to lead Israel out of slavery while also dealing with internal tensions within his family, where prejudices and discrimination could affect his relationships with loved ones. These challenges clearly reflect that setting an example for the nation is a leadership task that requires skill in maintaining family harmony and facing cultural and social trials. This serves as a reminder of the importance of humility, unity, and God's fair judgment in the community of believers. In conclusion, Zipporah's story, though brief, is filled with mystery and meaning. As Moses' first wife, she played a crucial role in his life, from their initial meeting in Midian to the pivotal moment when she saved his life. Her story reminds us of the complexities of cultural and spiritual differences and the strength needed to overcome them. Although the Bible does not give us many details about Zipporah, what we do know shows that she was a courageous and capable woman who supported one of the greatest leaders in the Bible. So we have now explored the mysterious story of Zipporah, Moses' first wife. She is a little-mentioned figure in the Bible, but an indispensable part of the great mission that God entrusted to Moses. From their chance encounter in Midian to the tense moments when she saved Moses' life, Zipporah's story will surely make you reflect on her challenges and courage. What makes Zipporah such a strong woman? And why, as a foreigner, did she play such an important role in God's plan for Israel? What do you think about the decisions she made throughout her life, from protecting her family to remaining loyal to God? If you find Zipporah's story inspiring and worth exploring further, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with friends who are eager to learn more about the Bible. And be sure to leave your thoughts and questions in the comments. We're always excited to hear from you. Thank you for joining us on this journey. May God bless you.
What should I prioritize? How can I make the right choices today? But what if, in this very moment, you could carry a guide, a source of wisdom so timeless it could illuminate every path ahead? Enter the book of Proverbs, the collected truths of King Solomon, the wisest man to grace the pages of history. Proverbs is more than poetry. It's a map for navigating life's twists and turns. From the smallest decisions to life's most profound challenges, each verse is a torchlight revealing God's perspective. Imagine beginning your day with insights that steady your mind, encourage your heart, and align your steps with divine purpose. Today, we invite you to journey with us through 10 inspiring topics from Proverbs, crafted to help you reflect, grow, and find clarity amidst the chaos. Are you grappling with a tough decision at work, wondering how to mend a strained relationship, or searching for peace in the whirlwind of life? These ancient truths are as relevant now as they were centuries ago, and they're here to guide you. Here's the best part. We know mornings can be busy. That's why we've included timestamps in the description below, allowing you to dive straight into the topics that resonate with your season of life. Need a reminder of how diligence leads to prosperity? We've got it. Curious about guarding your heart in a world full of distractions? It's all here. And if you or someone you love is looking for a roadmap to navigate life's complexities, this is the video they need to watch. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We're so glad you're here. Consider sharing this deep Bible stories video with a friend, especially someone who's out there tackling the morning grind, driving miles before sunrise, or carrying the weight of unanswered questions. Imagine the impact these life-giving words could have on their day, their choices, and their faith. So buckle up, literally or figuratively, and let's step into the wisdom of Proverbs together. From the reverent fear of the Lord to the transformative power of humility, these truths are waiting to shape your morning and center your heart on God's eternal promises. Let's begin. With that said, let's explore how Solomon's words from centuries ago can transform our mornings, our decisions, and our hearts. From the foundations of wisdom to the power of words, from diligence to humility, we're unpacking truths that are as relevant today as they were in ancient Israel. So buckle up, literally or figuratively, and get ready to dive into the morning wisdom of Proverbs. The morning sun rises, bathing the world in hues of gold and promise. Picture yourself standing at the window, coffee in hand, as the light spills across the room. It's quiet, just for a moment. The day hasn't yet begun its clamor of demands. And there, in the stillness, lies a choice. Will this day be guided by fleeting thoughts, anxieties, and hurried plans, or will it begin with a pause, a moment of awe, and a deep acknowledgement of the one who holds it all together? Proverbs 1:7 whispers an invitation, simple yet profound. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. This isn't fear, as we often understand it. It's not dread or terror. It's reverence, an overwhelming awe at God's majesty and sovereignty that reshapes how we see ourselves, our choices, and our purpose. This fear isn't constraining, it's freeing. It's a compass that realigns us in a world that constantly pulls us off course. Think about your typical morning. Are you scrolling through endless headlines, absorbing the chaos of the world before you've even had a chance to center yourself? Or perhaps you're mentally running through a to-do list, already overwhelmed by what lies ahead. Now imagine replacing that noise with reverence, a conscious choice to surrender those thoughts and start with God at the center. Reverence isn't an item on your list. It's a shift in posture, a way to frame the day through the lens of God's eternal truth. King Solomon, the man credited with this wisdom, wasn't born with it. He could have asked God for wealth, power, or success, but instead, he asked for understanding. His humility in that moment changed the trajectory of his life, and it reminds us of an important truth. Wisdom begins where pride ends, at the feet of the Creator. But what happens when we lean on our own understanding instead? It's like setting out on a cross-country drive without a map or GPS. You think you know the way, but soon you find yourself lost, doubling back, wasting time and energy trying to recover. Without reverence for God, decisions are often guided by emotions, fleeting trends, or incomplete perspectives. Have you ever made a decision in haste, only to look back later and wish you had sought God's guidance first? When we start with reverence, everything changes. It shifts our priorities, reframes our struggles, and instills a quiet confidence that God's wisdom is always greater than our own. It's the business leader who prays over a decision, seeking God's wisdom over short-term gain. It's the parent who pauses to teach their child biblical principles, knowing those seeds will outlast any fleeting success. It's the young professional who chooses integrity over cutting corners, trusting that God's path leads to lasting fulfillment. In today's culture, self-reliance is celebrated. Follow your heart, the world says. But Proverbs offers a countercultural truth. Real knowledge begins not in ourselves, but in surrender to God. Reverence is the antidote to confusion, the foundation upon which clarity and wisdom are built. So how do we live out this reverence in the midst of busy, noisy lives? Start small, but intentionally. Dedicate the first few moments of your morning to surrender. Before the emails, the notifications, and the day's demands, open your heart to God. Read His Word, not as a box to check, but as a source of direction. Pray, not just for your needs, but for His will to guide your steps. And as the day unfolds, look for opportunities to honor Him in your words, in your interactions, and in your choices. Imagine stepping into your day with this foundation. When challenges arise, you're not shaken, because you've already anchored yourself in the One who sees the end from the beginning. When decisions come, you don't act out of haste or fear, but from a place of trust. Ask yourself, what choices can I make today to show my reverence for God? It might be a pause to pray before responding to a tough situation. It could be a moment of gratitude for His blessings, big and small. It could even be letting go of a burden you've been carrying, trusting Him to lead you through it. Solomon's words remind us that the fear of the Lord is not just the start of knowledge, it's the start of peace, purpose, and a life aligned with God's eternal wisdom. Every choice we make with Him at the center brings us closer to the life He's designed for us. If this reflection resonates with you, share it with a friend who might need encouragement today. Maybe it's someone navigating a difficult decision, or someone feeling lost amidst life's chaos. Together, let's embrace the wisdom of Proverbs, beginning each day with reverence, trust, and awe for the One who holds it all. As we transition from the wisdom of building a life rooted in reverence for God, let's delve into one of the most vital aspects of spiritual well-being: guarding your heart. Imagine your heart as a pristine wellspring, its waters bubbling up with clarity and life, nourishing everything it touches. Every decision you make, every relationship you nurture, every word you speak flows from this source. But now picture cracks forming in the well's structure. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, pollutants begin to seep in. Fear takes root, clouding your perspective. Bitterness drips like poison, hardening your spirit. Distractions pour in, diluting your sense of purpose. The once pure waters turn murky, and their life-giving power wanes. Solomon, in all his wisdom, foresaw this danger. In Proverbs 4:23, he delivers this timeless instruction: Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. This isn't mere poetry. It's a rallying cry, a call to vigilance. In biblical terms, the heart is more than the center of emotion. It's the control room of your life, the place where thoughts, desires, and intentions are born. It's where God plants His truths, and it's the space the world fights fiercely to invade. Think about the world we live in, a relentless, noisy, demanding place. From the second your alarm buzzes, the battle begins. Social media notifications bombard you with carefully curated lives, sparking comparisons and envy. Headlines stoke fear, and advertisements promise fleeting happiness in exchange for your time, money, and focus. Your heart, this sacred wellspring, is bombarded from every side, and if left unguarded, it absorbs every toxin the world throws at it. So how do we protect it? How do we fortify the heart against such an unyielding onslaught? It starts with intentionality. Just as you wouldn't leave the door to your home wide open, inviting anyone and anything to enter, you must decide what has access to your heart. Solomon's wisdom reminds us that this isn't just an idea, it's a spiritual discipline. Guarding your heart means being discerning about what you consume. Every image you scroll past, every conversation you engage in, every song or headline you absorb, these are seeds planted in the soil of your heart. Are the seeds you're sowing ones that will bear the fruit of peace, joy, and righteousness? Or are they planting weeds of doubt, frustration, and fear? Picture a young woman starting her day. Instead of reaching for her Bible, she reaches for her phone, diving headfirst into an endless stream of emails and updates. Within moments, her heart feels heavy, distracted, overwhelmed by the demands and comparisons of life. Now imagine a different morning. This time, she begins by reading Scripture, letting God's truth settle into her spirit. She turns on worship music during her commute, replacing the noise of the world with the peace of His presence. The same day unfolds, but her perspective and her heart are entirely different. The people closest to you also have a direct line to your heart. Are your friends sharpening your faith or dulling your spiritual edge? Proverbs 27:17 reminds us, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Relationships are powerful. They can lift you closer to God's purpose or pull you away from it. Take inventory of your inner circle. Do these relationships encourage you to walk in faith and integrity, or do they subtly draw you into negativity or complacency? But guarding your heart isn't just about what comes from the outside. The most dangerous intrusions often come from within. Resentment, if left unchecked, festers into bitterness. Insecurity whispers lies that distort how you see yourself and others. Desires misaligned with God's will lead us down paths of regret. Solomon's wisdom invites us to confront these internal threats head-on. Imagine a man at the end of a long, stressful day. The weight of unspoken fears and unmet expectations weighs heavy on his chest. He turns off his devices, opens his Bible, and reads Proverbs 4:23. He prays, "Lord, cleanse my heart. Help me to let go of what's poisoning me and hold on to what's life-giving." In that moment, there's no magic fix, but a quiet shift begins. He feels the clutter of his mind give way to clarity, and his heart, though still under attack, feels fortified by God's presence. Practical steps to guard your heart. Guarding your heart isn't a one-time decision, it's a daily discipline. Here are some steps to help. Start your day with God. Before the world clamors for your attention, begin with Scripture and prayer. Ask God to fill your heart with His peace and wisdom. Filter what you consume. Be intentional about the media, conversations, and environments you allow into your life. Are they planting seeds of faith or of fear? Evaluate your relationships. Surround yourself with people who inspire and challenge you to grow closer to God. Seek out mentors and friends who will hold you accountable in love. Surrender internal struggles. Acknowledge the fears, insecurities, or resentments taking up space in your heart. Surrender them to God and allow His truth to heal and guide you. Invite God into the process. Pray daily, Lord, help me guard my heart. Show me what to let in and what to keep out. Align my desires with your will. Guarding your heart doesn't mean eliminating every challenge or distraction. It means facing them with God's strength and wisdom. When your heart is fortified, your decisions become clearer, your relationships healthier, and your faith unshakable. Solomon's words are both a warning and a promise. Everything you do flows from it. Protect your heart, and you protect your purpose. Today, as you go about your routines, ask yourself, what's flowing into my heart? Is it building me up or pulling me away from God's truth? The beauty of guarding your heart is that it's never too late to start. Begin now, and let the wellspring of your heart overflow with life, grace, and purpose. As we reflect on the importance of guarding our hearts, let us step into another profound truth, the unparalleled power of our words. Picture this. A parent stands in the kitchen, hurriedly packing lunches as the clock ticks closer to the start of the school day. A young child approaches cautiously, clutching a report card. Their expression is a mix of hope and fear. The parent glances at the grades, and this moment, fleeting as it may seem, becomes a defining one. A sharp critique could crush the child's budding confidence, planting seeds of inadequacy, but a word of encouragement, spoken with grace and wisdom, could light a spark that fuels perseverance and self-belief. Solomon, in his unparalleled wisdom, encapsulated this truth in Proverbs 18:21. Tongue has the power of life and death. These are not mere poetic words, they are a stark reality. Our words hold the potential to build up or to tear down, to nurture or to destroy, to inspire or to discourage. Every sentence, every syllable carries weight, leaving an imprint on the hearts of those who hear them. Think back to the last meaningful conversation you had. Was it marked by kindness or criticism, encouragement or frustration? Words, much like seeds, grow into something greater than themselves. They can blossom into trees of life, providing shade, comfort, and sustenance, or they can become weeds that choke out joy and faith. Solomon understood this well. He saw how a wise word could heal a broken spirit, or how a careless one could fracture a relationship beyond repair. In today's fast-paced, hyper-connected world, the reach of our words is magnified like never before. Social media, emails, and text messages allow us to communicate instantly, but they also amplify the consequences of what we say. A single post or comment can ripple out to touch hundreds or even thousands of lives. A thoughtless tweet can spark division, while a simple expression of gratitude can uplift an entire community. In the workplace, a few encouraging words can foster collaboration, turning a group of colleagues into a unified team. Conversely, a single sarcastic remark can create tension and mistrust. At home, a genuine "I love you" or "I'm proud of you" can brighten a loved one's day, while an impatient outburst might leave wounds that linger long after the words have faded. But it's not only the words we speak to others that matter, it's the words we speak to ourselves. That inner dialogue, the constant stream of thoughts running through our minds, can either align us with God's truth or pull us into doubt and despair. Negative self-talk acts like poison, corroding our confidence and distorting how we see our purpose in God's plan. However, affirming God's promises over ourselves reminds us of our worth, calling, and the fact that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Psalm 139:14. What does your inner dialogue sound like? Are you tearing yourself down with comparisons and criticism, or are you lifting yourself up with the knowledge that you are a child of God, deeply loved and divinely purposed? In moments of stress or high pressure, the tongue often reveals the state of our heart. It can become a wildfire, spreading anger, fear, or frustration in seconds. Yet, in those same moments, the tongue can also become a balm, bringing calm, clarity, and peace. James 1:19 offers timeless wisdom for these moments. Be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. A moment's pause before speaking can transform a potential conflict into an opportunity for grace. Picture a workplace scenario where tensions run high during a deadline crunch. A manager, overwhelmed, has two choices: snap at their team, adding to the chaos, or speak with understanding, acknowledging the effort being made. One choice escalates the stress, the other diffuses it and builds trust. So how do we choose life over destruction in our words? It starts with intentionality. Here are 4 ways to begin. Pause before speaking. In moments of heightened emotion, take a breath. Ask yourself, will these words build up or tear down? Will they bring life or harm? Choose encouragement. Replace criticism with affirmation. Instead of pointing out flaws, acknowledge effort, progress, and potential. Speak truth in love. Honesty doesn't have to be harsh. Delivering truth with compassion fosters growth and trust. Fill your heart with God's word, as Jesus said in Luke 6:45, "For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of." Let scripture and worship shape your heart so your words naturally reflect grace and truth. Imagine the ripple effect of speaking life. The kind words you offer to a coworker could inspire them to tackle the day with renewed energy. A compliment to a stranger might restore their faith in humanity. An apology to a family member could heal years of unresolved tension. But Solomon warns us not to underestimate the destructive potential of the tongue. Gossip can destroy reputations. Sarcasm can erode trust. Angry words, spoken in the heat of a moment, can leave scars that take years to heal. Proverbs 12:18 captures this dual reality. The words of the reckless pierce like swords, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. Today, as you engage in conversations, whether at work, at home, or even online, consider this. What will your words create? Healing or hurt? Unity or division? Life or destruction? Let us commit to speaking words that reflect the love, wisdom, and grace of God. Every conversation is an opportunity to plant seeds of life. As you move through your day, ask God to guide your speech, to make your words a reflection of His truth and kindness. And remember, your words can create legacies of love, trust, and healing that will outlast the moment they're spoken. As we reflect on the profound influence of words, let's pivot to another cornerstone of wisdom, the difference between diligence and laziness. Imagine for a moment a quiet field on a summer morning. The sun rises over a colony of ants, each one tirelessly moving grains of sand, building, preparing, and storing for the future. Now shift your gaze to a figure reclining under a tree, watching the ants work, but making no effort to rise. The contrast could not be starker, and Solomon invites us to go to the ant, you sluggard, consider its ways and be wise. Proverbs 6:6. This is not just a call to admire nature. It's an invitation to examine our own habits, attitudes, and the way we approach the work God has given us. The ant doesn't need external motivation or constant oversight. It works steadily and wisely, knowing that the small tasks of today pave the way for a secure tomorrow. Its life is a testament to the power of consistent diligence. Solomon's wisdom urges us to adopt the same mindset, to embrace hard work not as a burden, but as a pathway to fulfillment and prosperity. In contrast, laziness, while deceptively comforting in the moment, carries a hidden cost. Imagine starting a project with great enthusiasm, but leaving it unfinished. The satisfaction of progress is replaced by the lingering regret of procrastination. Laziness doesn't just delay results, it erodes potential, steals opportunities, and leaves us vulnerable to lack and frustration. In today's world, laziness often disguises itself in subtler forms. It's not always about doing nothing. It's about doing the wrong things at the expense of what truly matters. Hours lost to endless scrolling, time wasted over analyzing instead of acting, or choosing convenience over commitment. All these habits add up, leaving us further from the purpose God has called us to. Think of a student who dreams of success but avoids studying, convincing themselves that tomorrow will be different. Or the professional who aspires to grow but procrastinates on taking meaningful steps, waiting for the right time. Laziness isn't just inactivity, it's a mindset that undermines progress and slowly chips away at our God-given potential. Diligence, on the other hand, is a reflection of faithfulness. It's showing up every day, even when motivation fades, trusting that every small effort is a seed planted for future growth. Proverbs 10:4 tells us, "Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth." This wealth isn't just material, it's the richness of a fulfilled life, the satisfaction of knowing we've honored God by using our gifts and time wisely. Diligence doesn't just bless us, it impacts those around us. Consider the ant again. Its steady work ensures the survival of the colony, providing not only for itself but for the community. Similarly, when we approach our work with diligence, we create ripple effects of encouragement, stability, and inspiration for others. So how do we move from procrastination to purpose? It starts with small, intentional steps. Set clear priorities. Identify the tasks that align with God's purpose for your life. Focus on what matters most. Letting go of distractions. Start small, but start now. Don't wait for the perfect moment to act. Begin with what you have, and trust that God will multiply your efforts. Stay accountable. Share your goals with someone who will encourage you to stay on track and celebrate your progress. Rely on God's strength. Philippians 4:13 reminds us, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." Lean on His power when your own feels insufficient. Picture a young woman deciding to tackle her goals with diligence. Each morning, she starts her day in prayer, committing her plans to God. She chooses to work diligently, not for the approval of others, but as an act of worship. Over time, her consistency pays off, not just in tangible results, but in the confidence and peace that come from knowing she is walking in obedience. Contrast this with someone who continually delays. The opportunities missed, the potential left untapped, the regret of looking back and wondering what could have been. All these are the unseen costs of laziness. Today, as you reflect on the tasks before you, ask yourself, am I working with the diligence of the ant, or am I delaying what God has called me to do? Remember, diligence is not about perfection, it's about faithfulness. Each small step forward is an act of trust, a declaration that you believe God's plan for your life is worth pursuing with all your. Let us now shift inward to confront one of humanity's most dangerous and subtle adversaries, pride. Picture a climber scaling a jagged mountain. With every step their confidence grows. Each foothold feels secure. Each ledge conquered a badge of their strength. But as they stretch for the next hold, A small misstep sends them tumbling down the very cliff they fought so hard to ascend. Their fall is sudden and devastating, yet it was pride that blinded them to the fragility of their footing. This is the warning of Proverbs 16:18. Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. These words from Solomon carry a timeless weight, urging us to see pride for what it truly is, a deceiver, a divider, and ultimately a destroyer. Pride rarely announces itself with fanfare. It often enters our lives disguised as confidence, ambition, or self-reliance. It whispers alluring lies, "You've earned this," or "You don't need anyone else, you've got this." Pride shifts our focus from the blessings of God to the brilliance of our own accomplishments. It convinces us that we are invincible, that our successes are entirely our own, and that our failures are someone else's fault. Solomon, who observed the rise and fall of kings, understood the quiet destruction pride leaves in its wake. He saw alliances crumble as egos clashed, relationships disintegrate under the weight of stubbornness, and faith wither as individuals place themselves on pedestals meant only for God. Pride doesn't just harm the proud, it ripples outward, eroding communities, breaking trust, and isolating us from others. In today's world, pride wears many masks. Social media invites us to flaunt our achievements, curate perfection, and measure our worth by the approval of others. In the workplace, pride often disguises itself as relentless ambition, driving people to step on others in the pursuit of success. In relationships, it shows up as a refusal to apologize, an insistence on being right, or an unwillingness to admit vulnerability. Beneath the surface, pride builds walls, isolates us, and distorts our understanding of true honor. Have you ever felt the sting of pride's aftermath, a friendship fractured because neither side would yield? A moment of success hollowed by the realization that it was built on competition rather than collaboration. A missed opportunity for growth because pride silenced your willingness to learn. Humility, in contrast, offers a refreshing and countercultural way forward. It isn't about self-deprecation or thinking less of yourself. It's about thinking of yourself less. It's about seeing yourself accurately in the light of God's truth, acknowledging that every talent, blessing, and opportunity comes from Him. Humility is the parent who kneels to apologize to their child, teaching grace through example. It's the leader who listens to their team, valuing collaboration over control. It's the friend who celebrates your victories without envy, showing love in action. Humility doesn't diminish us. It elevates those around us and creates space for God's grace to work. Humility isn't always grand. It shines brightest in the small, everyday choices. Think of a heated argument where you feel the urge to prove your point. Choosing humility means stepping back, prioritizing understanding over victory, and valuing the relationship over being right. These moments, though simple, are where humility transforms not only our interactions, but also our hearts. Proverbs teaches us that humility leads to honor, a truth echoed throughout Scripture. Jesus himself modeled this when he knelt to wash his disciples' feet, performing an act of profound humility that carried eternal significance. In Philippians 2:3-8, Paul calls us to follow Christ's example, writing, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves." He humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross. Humility isn't just about relationships, it's also about our posture toward God. Pride tempts us to take credit for successes, rely on our own understanding, or resist his correction. But humility surrenders to God's wisdom, trusting His timing and embracing His guidance. It's the heart that prays, "Lord, not my will, but yours be done." In a world that celebrates pride, how do we choose humility? Start each morning with gratitude. Acknowledge God's sovereignty and thank Him for every blessing. Seek feedback from trusted friends who can lovingly point out blind spots. Practice listening more than speaking, and when tempted to assert your will, pause to consider how humility might transform the moment. Imagine a workplace marked by collaboration instead of competition, a family bound by understanding rather than ego, a community that values service over recognition. This is the ripple effect of humility. It doesn't just change us, it transforms those around us, creating environments where God's love and grace can flourish. As you navigate today's challenges, ask yourself, am I choosing humility, or am I letting pride dictate my actions? Pride may promise honor, but it leads to isolation and destruction. Humility, though often unseen, paves the way for peace, growth, and grace. As we reflect on the transformative power of humility, we now turn to one of life's most profound challenges, trusting in the unseen hand of God when everything within us urges us to take control. Picture yourself at the edge of a vast forest, the path ahead cloaked in thick, impenetrable fog. In one hand, you clutch a map, a crude sketch drawn from your assumptions, guesses, and logic. But beside you stands a guide, holding a lantern that cuts through the mist, offering clarity and direction. This is the daily tension we face. Do we trust in our own limited perspective, or do we surrender to God, who sees the end from the beginning? Proverbs 3:5-6 speaks directly to this crossroads. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. Solomon, in his unparalleled wisdom, understood the frailty of human understanding. No matter how carefully we plan, our view is constrained by the present, while God sees the entirety of the journey. Trusting Him means loosening our grip on control, letting go of the maps we've drawn, and allowing Him to lead us down paths that may feel uncertain, but are ultimately for our good. In our modern world, we're taught to celebrate self-reliance. From meticulously planned career paths to the endless stream of self-help strategies, society rewards those who appear to have it all figured out. But how often do our best-laid plans unravel, leaving us scrambling for answers? Perhaps you've experienced it. The perfect job opportunity that fell through, the relationship you were certain would last but didn't, the unexpected diagnosis that turned your life upside down. In those moments, the illusion of control shatters. Our carefully constructed plans prove fragile, and our understanding falls short. And yet, it is precisely in those moments of uncertainty that God extends His invitation. Trust me. I see what you cannot. I hold what you cannot carry. Trusting God is not about passive resignation. It is an active surrender, a deliberate choice to place our confidence in His wisdom rather than our own. His guidance is not bound by the constraints of time, human logic, or circumstances. He weaves the triumphs and trials of our lives into a tapestry of purpose that only He can see. Imagine a weary traveler, burdened by a heavy backpack filled with worries, questions about the future, the pressure to succeed, the weight of decisions yet to be made. Trusting God is like setting down that load, releasing the burden, and walking forward with open hands and a light heart. It doesn't mean the challenges disappear, but it shifts the responsibility of navigating them to the One who holds all things together. In a world filled with noise and anxiety, trusting God feels counterintuitive. The relentless cycle of news headlines, social media comparisons, and societal pressures fuels our tendency to overthink and overplan. Financial worries, health concerns, and career uncertainties all whisper, "You need to figure this out." But this reliance on our own understanding often amplifies our anxiety rather than alleviating it. What if, instead of spiraling into overthinking, we chose to pause? What if we responded to uncertainty not with frantic control, but with quiet prayer? Trusting God doesn't mean we stop making decisions or abandon effort. It means inviting Him into the process, seeking His wisdom, and acknowledging that His ways are higher than ours. Isaiah 55:9. Practical steps to trusting God. Begin your day in surrender. Before the demands of the day set in, dedicate your plans to God. Pray for His guidance, wisdom, and peace, and commit to following wherever He leads. Reflect on His faithfulness. Look back on moments when God provided for you, even when the way forward seemed impossible. Let these memories anchor your trust in His goodness. Release the need for why. Resist the urge to demand explanations for every challenge. Instead, focus on the who, the God who promises to work all things for good for those who love Him. Romans 8:28. Immerse yourself in Scripture. God's Word is a lamp to our feet and a light to our path. Psalm 119:105. Let His promises shape your perspective and bring clarity to confusion. Surround yourself with community. Share your struggles with trusted friends who can pray with you and remind you of God's faithfulness when doubt creeps in. Imagine a young mother facing a frightening diagnosis for her child. Every instinct tells her to research every outcome, plan for every possibility, and grasp for control. Yet she remembers Proverbs 3:5-6 and prays, "God, I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I know You hold tomorrow. Help me to trust You." In that moment, peace washes over her, not because the situation has changed, but because her trust has shifted from her own understanding to God's unchanging nature. Trusting God doesn't remove the challenges, but it transforms how we face them. It replaces anxiety with assurance, confusion with clarity, and fear with faith. So, where in your life are you leaning on your own understanding? Is it in your career, your relationships, your finances, or your health? God invites you to trust Him with all your heart. Let go of the need to have all the answers and rest in the assurance that He is leading you. Take a moment right now to pause and pray. Identify one area of your life where you've been holding on to control and surrender it to God. Ask Him to guide your steps, to light your path, and to fill your heart with His peace. Trusting God is not a one-time decision. It's a daily practice, a moment-by-moment choice to lean on Him rather than ourselves. And as we do, we discover the profound truth of His promise. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your path straight. Picture this: a father and his child walk hand in hand through a lively park. The child's eyes light up with curiosity, drawn to the fluttering leaves and the laughter of distant children. Suddenly, the child's attention shifts to a glittering puddle near the edge of a busy road. Eager to explore, they tug free and dart toward the danger. The father, swift and steady, reaches out with firm but gentle hands, pulling them back. The child's face flushes with frustration, tears welling up from the perceived unfairness of the interruption. They don't understand the danger, just steps away, but the father sees it clearly. His correction isn't driven by anger or control, it's driven by love. He pulls them back because he cares too much to let them stumble toward harm. This moment is a living illustration of Proverbs 13:24. Whoever spares the rod hates their children, but the one who loves their children is careful to discipline them. Discipline, in its truest form, is not punishment but protection. It's the loving hand that redirects us when we wander toward peril, the steady voice that says, "This may be painful now, but it will lead to peace and wisdom later." In today's culture, the word discipline often carries negative connotations. It's mistaken for harshness, rigid rules, or cold-hearted punishment. But King Solomon, the wisest man to ever live, saw it differently. Discipline to him was an act of love, an intentional investment in the growth and well-being of the one receiving it. He observed how correction shaped character, turned wayward paths toward righteousness, and spared individuals from long-term harm. God's discipline works the same way. As our loving Father, He doesn't correct us to harm or humiliate, but to refine and prepare us. Hebrews 12:11 captures this truth beautifully. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. Discipline is the training ground where perseverance, faith, and wisdom are cultivated. Think back to the last time you faced a setback or challenge. Perhaps it was a financial strain that forced you to reevaluate your priorities. Maybe it was a strained relationship that required patience and humility to mend. Or it might have been a moment when God asked you to step out of your comfort zone, only to find the path ahead filled with unexpected obstacles. In those moments, discipline can feel like a roadblock. It can stir frustration and doubt. But what if, instead of seeing discipline as an obstacle, you viewed it as an opportunity? God's discipline often takes the form of closed doors, delayed answers, or challenging seasons, not to punish, but to shape us. Every moment of redirection is an invitation to trust Him more deeply and to lean into the purpose He's preparing us for. Discipline isn't confined to spiritual correction. It touches every area of our lives. It's the athlete rising before dawn to train, knowing that each sacrifice brings them closer to their goal. It's the parent who patiently teaches their child values and boundaries even when it requires tough conversations. It's the person who says no to distractions, choosing instead to focus on their calling with determination and care. These moments of discipline may feel small in the moment, but over time they yield a harvest of growth, strength, and purpose. Consider the athlete who trains for months to run a marathon. Each early morning run, each disciplined meal, each moment of sacrifice builds endurance and character. The finish line isn't reached by accident. It's earned through consistent effort. Similarly, discipline in our spiritual and personal lives builds the resilience we need to navigate life's challenges with faith and clarity. Solomon's wisdom about sparing the rod speaks directly to the heart of parenting. This isn't a call to harshness or control, but to intentional guidance. Discipline teaches children about boundaries, consequences, and the value of right choices. It's an act of love that says, "I care enough to correct you, even when it's hard." Imagine a child learning to ride a bike. The parent's hand steadies the seat as the child wobbles forward. Gentle corrections keep them on course even as they stumble and fall. Over time, the child gains confidence and skill, eventually riding freely. Without those steady hands and moments of correction, there would be no progress, no growth. In the same way, God's discipline steadies us when we waver, encourages us when we doubt, and corrects us when we stray. His word is the guide that keeps us on the path of righteousness, and His correction is the hand that draws us back when we veer off course. Discipline isn't just something we receive, it's something we cultivate. In a world filled with distractions, maintaining spiritual habits like prayer, Bible study, and worship requires intentional effort. but the rewards are immeasurable. Think of a morning routine grounded in discipline, starting the day with scripture, reflecting on Proverbs, and committing your plans to God. These small daily acts of discipline build a foundation of peace and purpose, aligning your heart with His will. Over time, they become a source of strength, helping you navigate challenges with clarity and grace. While discipline may feel uncomfortable in the moment, its fruits are undeniable. It shapes us into individuals who can face life's challenges with courage, wisdom, and faith. It strengthens our relationships, builds trust, and fosters growth in our families and communities. Most importantly, it draws us closer to God, helping us reflect His character in our actions. As you move through today, consider how you can embrace discipline as an act of love. Perhaps it's by setting aside time to pray, even when your schedule feels packed. Maybe it's by gently correcting a loved one, offering guidance rooted in care rather than frustration. Or perhaps it's by recognizing God's hand in a challenging season, trusting that He is shaping you for something greater. Ask yourself, how can I embrace discipline as a sign of God's love today? Whether it's in the way you approach your work, your family, or your relationship with God, remember that discipline is not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about trusting the process, knowing that each step of correction and effort is drawing you closer to the person God created you to be. Picture this. It's a bustling morning at your local coffee shop. The air hums with conversation, the sharp scent of fresh espresso fills the air, and baristas work swiftly to keep up with the line of customers. Ahead of you, a man nervously pats his pockets, realizing he's a few dollars short for his order. You notice the hesitation in his posture, the quiet frustration on his face. What do you do? For a generous heart, the answer is simple. You step forward, offer to cover the cost, and walk away knowing that this small act might have brightened his entire day. This moment, though fleeting, carries the essence of Proverbs 11:25. A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. Solomon's wisdom reaches across centuries to remind us that generosity is more than an act. It's a posture of the heart, a reflection of God's overflowing grace. Generosity isn't confined to finances. It's the willingness to bless others with whatever we have. Our time, words, or talents, regardless of the size of the gesture. In a culture that glorifies scarcity and self-preservation, true generosity feels countercultural. Yet Solomon, the wisest man in the Bible, reveals a profound truth. When we give freely, we aren't depleted. Instead, we are enriched. Think of a river that flows freely, nourishing everything it touches. This is what generosity does. It creates movement, spreading joy, kindness, and blessing far beyond its source. But when we hoard, when we close our fists tightly around what we have, we become like a stagnant pond, lifeless and isolated. At its core, generosity is an act of trust in God. It's a declaration that everything we have comes from Him and ultimately belongs to Him. When we give, whether in plenty or scarcity, we affirm our faith in His provision, believing that He will supply our needs even as we pour into the lives of others. Think back to a time when someone's generosity made a difference in your life. Maybe it was a friend's words of encouragement at just the right moment, a stranger paying for your meal, or someone offering their time to help you through a challenge. Those acts, no matter how small, left an imprint, didn't they? Generosity creates ripples. A thoughtful compliment might brighten a co-worker's day, leading them to treat others with kindness. A neighbor's simple act of sharing groceries with a struggling family could restore hope in a season of despair. Solomon understood this ripple effect, which is why he declared that generosity not only blesses the receiver, but refreshes the giver. Imagine the man in the coffee shop leaving with his drink paid for by your kindness. The relief on his face might inspire him to extend that same kindness to someone else, a ripple of generosity that you unknowingly started. Sometimes we think generosity requires grand gestures, but more often it's found in the quiet, unnoticed moments. It's the time you take to listen to a friend who's struggling, even when your own schedule feels overwhelming. It's offering a ride to a neighbor, helping someone with a task, or sending a text to brighten someone's day. Generosity in today's digital world can also take the form of thoughtful engagement online, a kind comment, a word of encouragement, or even refraining from responding harshly in a heated moment can make a world of difference. Solomon's wisdom reminds us that generosity is less about resources and more about the posture of our hearts. Even science affirms what Solomon knew to be true. Generosity doesn't just bless others, it transforms us. Studies show that acts of kindness release endorphins, boosting our mood and enhancing our emotional well-being. Giving fosters connections, deepens relationships, and creates a sense of purpose that enriches both the giver and the receiver. But Solomon takes it a step further, anchoring generosity in the eternal. Matthew 6:20 reminds us to store up for yourselves treasures in heaven. Every act of giving, no matter how small, becomes an investment in God's kingdom, a reflection of his heart, and a ripple that carries eternal significance. The beauty of generosity is that it shines brightest in scarcity. Consider the widow in 1 Kings 17, who shared her last bit of flour and oil with the prophet Elijah. Despite her limited resources, her faith-filled act of giving led to miraculous provision, sustaining her and her son through a famine. Generosity in difficult seasons isn't easy, but it's powerful. It declares, God, I trust you as my provider, and I choose to reflect your heart by giving, even when it's hard. Living generously doesn't require wealth or abundance. It begins with intentionality. Start small. Buy someone's coffee, send a kind message, or help a stranger. Every small act counts. Look for opportunities. Ask God to open your eyes to the needs around you. He will place people in your path who need a touch of His love. Be intentional. Set aside time, money, or resources specifically for giving. Whether it's donating to a cause, volunteering, or simply being present for someone, generosity thrives on purpose. Teach generosity. Model it for your children, friends, or community. Share stories of giving and inspire others to join in acts of kindness. Picture a single mother struggling to make ends meet. One evening, a neighbor knocks on her door with a bag of groceries and a kind note. That act of generosity meets her immediate need, but also reminds her that she's not alone, that she's valued and seen. The neighbor, in turn, walks away refreshed, knowing they've been God's hands and feet in someone else's life. This is the beauty of generosity. It creates a cycle of blessing, a constant flow of God's grace moving through His people. As you go about your day, ask yourself, who can I bless with an act of generosity today? Maybe it's someone you know well, or perhaps it's a stranger. It could be through your resources, your time, or your words. Whatever it is, trust that your generosity will create ripples of joy and renewal, not just for others, but for your own spirit as well. Imagine a master weaver at work, thread by thread, crafting a tapestry that tells a story. Each thread represents a choice, an act of kindness, a moment of courage, a decision to put others before oneself. Over time, the tapestry forms a breathtaking picture, a testament to a life lived with integrity, love, and purpose. This is the image evoked in Proverbs 31, a life of virtue that shines brighter than jewels, leaving a legacy far more valuable than rubies. Solomon begins this powerful passage by declaring the rarity and beauty of noble character. A wife of noble character who can find, she is worth far more than rubies. Proverbs 31:10. Though these words describe a virtuous wife, their wisdom reaches far beyond a single role or gender. A virtuous life, marked by strength, kindness, and faithfulness, resonates as a universal calling, inviting us all to reflect God's light in our homes, workplaces, and communities. What does it mean to live virtuously in a world driven by self-interest and instant gratification? In today's society, where quick wins and fleeting appearances often take precedence over substance, the qualities of Proverbs 31 stand out like a beacon. Virtue requires patience, consistency, and the courage to choose what is right over what is convenient. It's not about perfection, but about intention, a heart that seeks to honor God in every action. Consider the attributes of the noble character described in Proverbs 31. This person is diligent, rising early to provide for their family and manage their affairs with care. They are generous, extending their hands to the poor and their hearts to those in need. Their words are filled with wisdom and kindness, offering encouragement and truth. Integrity defines their actions, and faithfulness anchors their relationships. Now pause and reflect. Are your daily actions contributing to a legacy of virtue, or are they driven by the fleeting demands of the moment? In a culture that prioritizes outward success, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters. Yet Proverbs reminds us that lasting fulfillment doesn't come from achievements or accolades, but from a heart aligned with God's principles. The beauty of a virtuous life is that it's built not through grand, dramatic gestures, but through small, consistent decisions made daily. It's found in the choice to speak truth, even when it's inconvenient. It's showing patience in moments of frustration, choosing forgiveness over resentment, and prioritizing relationships over personal gain. Imagine a mother at the end of a long day, exhausted from the demands of work and family. Her child approaches with a seemingly trivial problem. In that moment, her decision to respond with kindness and attentiveness plants a seed of security and love in her child's heart, a small but profound act of virtue. Or consider a colleague who steps forward to advocate for fairness in a workplace discussion, even when staying silent would have been easier. Their integrity inspires trust and builds a culture of respect. These everyday choices, though simple, weave the threads of a virtuous life, one that reflects. Adam stands alone in the garden, staring at the stars that flicker above him. His mind races, filled with questions, doubts,